The Return of the Indian, Chapter 21, Battle of the Skinheads. They moved silently down through the darkness. Omri could feel, through his hands holding the edges of the loose-leaf platform, the faint vibrations of life. He could also, for the first time since it happened, feel the sting where the row of minute bullets had pierced the skin of his palm. On the first landing, he nudged Patrick to a stop. Low down on the bottom flight of stairs was one which always creaked. He heard it creak now. He changed directions and slipped through a half-open door into the bathroom. He and Patrick stood behind this door. There was another door to this room, which led into his parents' bedroom, and it too was ajar. They saw a faint light, the sort made by a penlight, feeling its way about on the landing, and heard the stealthy sounds of the skinheads following it. Then a faint whisper, "Let's try in here." The finger of light vanished, to appear again through the other door. The intruders were in Omri's parents' room. He could hear them moving furtively about. Then, the soft whine of a wardrobe opening. "Gah! No fur coats!" Omri and Patrick stood rooted, hardly breathing. Omri was almost praying that in the darkness no soldier would press a trigger by mistake. Suddenly the torchlight was within 2 feet of them, on the other side of the door. "Look here, Kev!" Omri set his teeth. He knew what they'd found, a little oak chest with small, shallow drawers, in which his mother kept the few bits of jewelry she owned, most of it old silver inherited from her mother. It was very precious to her, though it wasn't specially valuable. Omri heard the scrape of the wooden drawers, and then, "We can flog this lot. Let's just take the old thing." And then another voice, farther away, but audible, because they thought they were safe, or were getting careless. "Here, I'm going to take a leak on their bed." And there was a burst of stifled sniggering. That did it. Before Omri could even signal, Patrick had let out a growl of disgust and flung the door open. "The light switch! Beside you!" Omri shouted. There was an agonizing second while Patrick groped. Then the light came on, flooding the bedroom with brightness. The skinheads froze in grotesque positions, like children playing statues. Their ugly faces were turned toward the boys, their eyes popping, their loose mouths gaping. Omri rushed in like an avenging fury and stopped the loose-leaf platform with its contingent of men thrust in front of him. "'Ere, what the hell?" Then Fickett's sergeant major voice rang shrill and clear. "Fire at will!" The biggest skinhead snarled and made a dive toward Omri. For a split second he loomed menacingly. Then there was a concerted burst of fire, and suddenly tiny red spots appeared on his face in a line. From the bottom of one cheek diagonally across his nose to the top of the other. He stopped dead in his tracks, let out a howl of pain and outrage, and clapped his hands to his face. "I've been stung! It's hornets! Get him off me!" Behind him, his mate started toward Patrick, hands reaching out to grab. "I'll get him, little nerds!" But all he got was the miniature equivalent of an armor-piercing shell up under his thumbnail. "Ow!" he shrieked, and let out a string of curses, shaking his hand and dancing in agony. The third and smallest of the gang had been gazing at the object Omri held, and he, unlike the others, had seen. He now let out a sound that started as a moan and ended with a scream. "Ah!" Then he flew into a panic, dashing here and there in short spurts, yelling, "Help! They're alive! I see them! They're alive!" Through the crump and crack and chatter of guns, which were firing continuously, the other two also turned and tried to flee, but all sense of direction had deserted them. They bumped into furniture, the walls, and each other, swearing and howling and giving great leaps into the air every time they were hit in a sensitive spot. Omri and Patrick added to the uproar by shouting encouragement to their little men. Patrick was jumping about as if at a prize fight or a football match. Omri had to stay still to hold the firing platform steady, but he opened his throat on a long shout of excitement as the 3 invaders finally found the other exit and fled through it pell-mell. "Cease fire!" cried Patrick. "Cease fire!" bawled Fickett's. There was a fraction of a second's silence. Then the boys heard the skinheads shoving and swearing on the stairs. One of them tripped. There was a series of satisfying thumps, and then a loud crack as one of the banisters broke. The boys, hurrying down the hall landing, saw them fleeing along the path and heard the clatter of their boots receding along a hobble road. accompanied by sounds of anguish. The boys turned and hugged each other. "We did it! We did it! The way you switched the light on, terrific. How could you hold that thing straight? I'd have tipped them all off. I was so excited. Hey, where is it?" "I put it on the bed." They rushed back into the bedroom. Fickets was calmly ordering the men to clear up and cover the big guns. When he noticed the boys, he left the men and edged to the back of the platform. "Operation a success, sir?" he asked in a quiet tone. "Definitely, Fickets. Well done," said Omri. "Did I say a Sergeant Fickets?" "Did I say a Sergeant Fickets?" said Patrick. "I meant a captain." "Not me, sir. Too much responsibility," he coughed. "Better get the men fell in and back to the quarters as quick as possible, sir." "Yeah, right," said Patrick. "Thanks again, Corporal. It was terrific." He started to carry them upstairs. "See that everything's all right up there," said Omri. "Okay." Patrick reached the door and stopped. "I don't mind so much now missing the other battle," he said. "Wasn't this one fantastic?" "Yeah," said Omri. He was thinking how fantastic it was, too, that he would never be afraid to walk down Hobble Road again. They would leave him severely alone from now on, and even if they didn't, having sent them flying like that. And, after all he'd been through tonight, he couldn't imagine them holding any terrors for him in the future. He looked around the room. He was going to have a bit of explaining to do. The glass on a picture was cracked, and there were a number of pinholes, and some larger ones in the wallpaper and the foot of the bed. And there was the banister, and his own injuries. Well, he could tell his parents about the burglars, say there was a scuffle, maybe they'd believe it. He hoped so. He bent and picked up his mother's jewel box off its face. He'd saved that for her anyway. Under it was a cheap pen light. He picked it up. It was still lit. He switched it off and dropped it into his pocket. He might, if he felt like it, just hand it back to that little skinhead if he bumped into him after school on Monday. Be a good laugh to see his face. Omri drew a deep breath of satisfaction and went downstairs to bring in the stuff piled in the front garden. And that is the end of chapter 21.